I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
Welcome back, everybody. You're with Steven Basita on my podcast, Get It. And today I am with Mathys. He is one of my players on my high school open team for running basketball, the OC chapter. And today I'm having him on because he has finally completed his mission, which is moving to the next level of college. And I just want to be able to have everybody hear about his experience and how hard he worked. I think that we consistently have a disconnect for people, parents and athletes, and understanding how truly difficult it is to make it to the college level. You know, people don't understand that at the Division I level, there are 1,700 scholarships, roughly. 1,700. It is more likely that you're not going to end up playing college than you are going to play college. And that's the Division I level. If you take college scholarships as a whole from the, JC level, or even college spots from the JC level to the Division I level, you have less than a 1.8% chance of even playing a college sport. And so people understand, like, 1 out of every 100 high school varsity players are going to play in college. That's what your stats are. So if you're not the best kid in your city, town, league, state, chances are you're going to have a hard time getting there. And it involves a lot more than just that. But I want to have Mathys talk here. So Mathys, how you doing, bud?
Doing great, Coach. Thank you.
All right. So first thing I really want to walk through with you, and I want people to really hear and understand, is let's start. When did you know that you wanted to play college basketball, roughly?
I guess around sophomore year, just the idea of going to school, playing basketball at a high level, and with other kids that have the same goals as you, it sounded like a dream. So
Okay.
Around sophomore year, I've always loved basketball, but sophomore year is when I really decided this is what I want to do.
And when you made that decision, what has your experience been since then? So your sophomore year in high school, you said, hey, I want to play college basketball. So what were some of the steps that you started to make towards that goal? And how did that change how hard that you worked, how often you were working out and training? What were those changes for you so you could attain this goal?
Well, I started lifting weights. I started lifting weights and getting in the weight room. For practices, I would come early and leave late, I would say after practice and shoot. And I took more care of my schoolwork. I started focusing a lot more on grades too, because before that, I didn't really have a motivation for grades. But after I learned that you can't play without grades, and I started really focusing on that too.
What's your GPA right now?
3.2.
Who'd you sign with?
Simpson University.
So Simpson University is an NAIA Division I school. And for those that don't understand how that works, Division I is the highest for college basketball, and that's NCAA Division I. NCAA Division II and NAIA Division I are neck and neck. Then you've got NCAA Division III, you've got your JCs, and you've got the you got a couple other little leagues out there, the NCCAA. There's something else out there too, but very, very challenging to get to that level. So, your sophomore year, you play your high school season, and then what do you do?
Well, I look for a club team that's going to put me in the right position to be in front of college coaches, and that's going to help me get better as a player.
And what club was that?
OC Reign with you.
And what were the things that you learned your sophomore going into your junior year that really helped you prepare?
I learned, I played against high quality players. So I had in front of me how good I had to be to play at the college level. I learned everything about the recruiting process through you guys. because I didn't really know how it worked, like how to contact coaches, make highlight reels, like all the stuff that I had to do to be noticed by a coach. I learned like my sophomore year.
And how much time would you say that you invested on a weekly basis putting together highlights, emailing and calling coaches, like starting that process? And obviously, I know we worked together a lot on that. How many hours would you say on a weekly basis that you started doing all this stuff?
I'd say just the communication part, like the videos and the talking to coaches, probably 3 hours a day, like Monday through Friday. So around 15, 17 hours a week.
And I just want people to hear that. Again, Mathys, one person, and I will say that there is a benefit to playing in an organization that has a lot of relationships with college coaches, which I've worked very hard for. And I just want people to understand, Mathys was putting in 3 hours a day starting his junior year in high school, about 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, into contacting college coaches, doing the research, communicating. That's just him. That doesn't include all the work that myself and my organization put forth for guys like Mathys as well. We recognize he is a college level player, and then contacting coaches, putting him in touch with people and beginning that process and getting that process going. And it's time consuming. And just to be able to get to where I am now with being able to get high school kids into college, there's three things that people need to understand. A, I probably put in 500 to 1,000 unpaid hours. Unpaid hours, I made no money off of it. Unpaid hours just establishing relationships with college coaches at every level, and really in the western side of the U.S., as that's where I grew up and played. And then, of course, my organization has chapters in the western side of the U.S., being Orange County, California, Inland Empire, California, L.A., California, Las Vegas, Nevada, Denver, Colorado. So, and I still communicate with coaches. Every week, I probably spend about 10 to 12 hours, some weeks maybe 20 to 25 hours, just talking to college coaches, relationships that I have and new relationships that I'm forming. Having guys that are college level like Mathys doesn't guarantee you a spot. It does take communication from the player, from the parents, from the coach. If your high school coach at your school is not going to put forth a lot of effort, and that's a 50-50. Some will help, some won't. Mathys, did your high school coach help you at all?
Like a little bit my senior year. That's really good.
Okay. So not a whole lot on that side. It is important that people understand you've got to be very actively involved. Parents, the student, you got to get coaches involved. All that matters. And it's just such a time-consuming process. And it does need to start your junior year, preferably the summer of your sophomore year going into your junior year. That's when you really need to start the process. And Mathys, how many showcase events, if you remember, did you play in your sophomore going into junior year? And then just so everybody understands too, COVID happened last year. We didn't get to play in a single showcase because there were none. Basketball was basically wiped out. So his only real exposure up until recently was his sophomore summer going into his junior year. Do you remember how many showcases you played in?
5, I think. Like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 5.
Yeah.
And you gotta play in front of college coaches. Then you gotta have the highlights. You gotta send that stuff out. So now that you've gotten into your senior year, you just signed your, you just committed and signed for Simpson University this past week. How many hours, because you've been communicating with them for months, talking to coaches, sending stuff. How long before of communication that you had with just Simpson, not including any other program, with just Simpson, how many hours of communication did you have over the course of how many months before you finally signed your letter of intent and committed to them?
Well, not including Simpson.
No, just Simpson. Just Simpson.
Just Simpson? over like the last 3 to 4 months, I don't know, like, because it wasn't just the basketball side. Like, I had to talk to the counselors from school to make sure my grades, and I had taken all the right classes. So, I don't know, at least per day, 2 hours just for Simpson, every day.
I want people to understand that. He has a letter, he signed it, he's committed. Over the course of 4 months, he spent almost 2 hours daily getting himself into his position to even sign this and get everything cleared. Grades matter. For everybody that thinks that you can slack off and worry about it your senior year, that's how you end up going the JUCO route. You got to have good grades. If you want to be taken seriously above a 3.0, you need to be taking, as Mathys just said, the right classes. If you want to play college sports, you need to be able to meet with the school guidance counselor and start getting that taken care of. And the school athletic director. Find out the courses you need to take and find out a realistic area you're going to end up. Mathys, we spoke about where you were realistically should be playing. I would say we had that talk probably right before you started your junior year, correct?
Right, yeah, junior year.
And we knew that you were going to be an NCAA Division II or an NAIA Division I level player.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has helped me with benchmarking kids in my program is I have kids playing Division I or have played Division I. Right now we have 3 guys playing Division I basketball. Got 24 kids playing NCAA Division II or NAIA Division II. I've got 20 kids playing JUCO because of grades. And we have guys playing Division III and girls. We have girls that have also come through our program and are at all those different levels. And knowing where they fell and their attitudes, commitment, work ethic, grades, skill sets, all that stuff. And then, of course, being just involved in the game from a viewership standpoint, watching Division I schools and Division I players, watching Division II schools and Division II level players, the NAIs, all that stuff. And again, having relationships with a lot of those coaches, pretty good at assessing players. And if I have a question on a player, we have college coaches that come to practices or games and will basically give their assessment as well. And, it's very helpful. But again, being part of a program, and it doesn't have to be some massive program. I want people to understand that although we do have several different chapters, as far as like our high school stuff, each chapter only has anywhere from 2 to 4 boys high school teams. And then the OC chapter currently is the only chapter that even has, the Las Vegas chapter had it until COVID. The Las Vegas chapter right now is shut down, but the OC and the Las Vegas chapter were the only ones that even had girls programs. And again, high school programs, and we only have 2 or 3 teams. And the focus of that is because we want to focus on kids like Mathys in getting them what they need. If we had 100 teams, and there's no disrespect to any programs that do, there are those programs, but when you have that many teams, it's really hard to focus on players and helping them get what they need to get to the next level. Now, you got a chance to meet with Mario Soto, who was the sports psychologist, your sophomore summer going into your junior year.
I actually was not there for that.
Oh, no. Well, Mario's great. And I would say for athletes, Mathys has a really strong mindset already and is a very focused individual and is very driven. And, as a coach that has the blessing of being able to have coached Mathys, I don't need to motivate him. For some kids, they really struggle with the mental side. So having an athletic sports psychologist work with them can be important. Unfortunately, due to COVID, a lot of the things that we do in my program, we haven't been able to do this last year, but we used to have a yoga instructor that would meet with the kids once a week that was specific to basketball. We have the sports psychologist. We have had nutritionists over the years that have helped with the kids. I had a gym that I trained all the kids at pre-COVID. And we work on stuff at practices, making sure we're developing them stuff and doing the film, and all these different things matter. And for people to really understand, that's what it takes to get to the next level. You have to have kids that are fully committed to their craft. Which brings me to my next question for you, Mathys. How many hours a day do you spend on average focusing on getting better? It could be in the weight room getting stronger. It could be on the track sprinting and getting faster. It could be, working on your plyometrics. It could be getting your 500 shots up or more a day. Games, practices. I mean, there's days you've done 3 practices in a day and a workout. So just tell people on average what your life looks like in regards to basketball and how many hours you spend towards that.
Well, before, during COVID, I actually had a lot more time. So I would be able to do a weightlifting session. I would practice on my own, at a basketball court. I work on my skill set, and then I would have a club practice. Right now, I'd say around 5 to 6 hours. Track, school practice, and then my individual workouts. And every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
And what's the most amount of games that you've played in a day?
Most 5.
Sounds about right. 5 games. And for me, been playing with me for the last couple of seasons here. For me, you are a starter.
Yeah.
How often do I sub you?
Not almost never.
Almost never. So for context, we typically play in games that are 2 20-minute halves. So it's a running clock, but of up and down actual run play, he's typically averaging about 30 to 32 minutes because it is a running clock. So when people are shooting free throws, the clock is still going. Just to put that in, and we do play games where it's 4 quarters or 2 halves with a stop clock, which may be 14 minutes. But just so people understand, he's playing at the highest level in divisions possible. We're playing against kids that are going to play Division I, NCAA Division I, NCAA Division II, NAI Division I, all that stuff. He doesn't get subs. I don't give him breaks almost ever unless we're up by a lot, which has happened, right?
Yeah.
I'll let him sit and get ready for the next game. But overall, he probably averages 1 substitution every 2 games that we play. For what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. 2 minutes.
That's not always the route to go. But what I will say in regards to Mathys, because he won't say it himself, is we do better when he's on the court. And there are certain players where you have a kid that is special and you need them to not only better the entire team, but to consistently give the entire team the best possible chance of winning. And because we are always playing high-level competition, we don't blow out a ton of teams. We've blown out some teams, but I would say on average, we probably blow out 1 team out of every 4 teams we play. The rest of the games are probably determined by 5, 6, 7 points.
Yeah.
So those are all things that are important for context. I'm not saying that every kid needs to play every minute. That's not true. But for a kid like Mathys, he's not a replaceable kid. It's very hard. And there are some teams that you're going to have a lot of guys that you can do that. And again, we've had kind of a different situation this last 18 months or 14 months with COVID. There's a lot of kids that couldn't play because of COVID. Now kids are slowly coming back. Again, there's just a lot of different variables that go into that. What would you say have been the 2 hardest things for you from a mental standpoint to kind of climb over to prepare yourself for where you're going? And what do you think have been the 2 easiest things for yourself?
The 2 hardest things, the first one is just motivation and just mentally staying strong, because you get at a point where you start to doubt yourself and think, am I doing something wrong? Am I going to make it? And I guess if I could give advice to anyone, it's just you have to stick with it the whole way. The second one I'd say grades, because when you're juggling like sports and then you're trying to get work in, but then you have to remember that you also have school to worry about, like just staying consistent with your grades. That was probably just like the hardest thing. And then there wasn't really anything easy about it, but like at the end of the day, it's playing basketball, so it brings me joy. That's pretty much it. There wasn't really anything easy about the sport, except for playing basketball in general.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. So now that we're, for you, we'll obviously get to have you play with us a little bit longer. But when do you leave for school? So we're in late April now. So high school ends for you late May?
We're beginning of May right now.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. We're at the beginning of May. That's right. Today's May 4th.
Yeah.
My brain's slipping here. That's right. So we're early May, and high school's over for you when?
Like late May, I think beginning of June.
And then when do you leave for college?
I haven't asked coach yet, but I would think around July, because I know the school starts in August.
Correct.
And I know, like, for sports, they like to have the guys come a little bit early, I would think.
Right.
So I'm going to say around July.
Okay. I think you're right in that assumption, too. And then the new journey begins, and the new, grind begins. And I use that term wisely. For people that don't understand, and I know we've done some podcasts with guys like Judah Brown who are playing Division I basketball. Your journey is going to change exponentially when you go from high school to college. Things are a lot more structured. When you're playing college sports, it is a business, and the coaches are hired there to make sure you're winning games. If you're not winning games, they don't have a job. And so it becomes a job for you as players as well. And so for Mathys, again, he hit on the mental side of this a couple different times. You have to be mentally ready to really transition into a new life and into a new mindset, because the mindset has to be that you're going to go there and you're going to work harder than you've ever worked, and that you're going to do whatever it takes to put yourself in the position to be the best player for your team so you can win. And then, of course, knowing what your role is and executing your role, which is a thing that a lot of student athletes struggle with, is understanding and knowing what their role is, which can be very challenging. Do you have any advice for people that are going through this process?
Yeah, just put in, it's about working hard. Like, the more time you put in, the better chance you have of getting noticed by someone. Like, there's no shortcuts at all. That's my bad.
Well, that is for sure. Well, I appreciate having you on today. And again, for everybody that is listening, thank you so much for joining my podcast. You're Steven Basita on my podcast, Get It. And we're now just really diving into a series of basketball stuff. I'm gonna have some more college guys on, gonna have some pro guys on, ex-pro and currently pro, and just helping people truly understand what it takes to get to that next level, because it really is such a challenging task, and there's unfortunately so much misinformation out there. And one of the best things I ever heard, which was accurate, was great coaches truly don't put out much information, because if you're great at something, you don't have a lot of free time to put out information on that, because you're busy at trying to continue to be great at what it is you're doing. And I took that to heart and decided I wanted to be a coach that would be able to always spend a little bit of time helping with the education for people so that they themselves can have, hopefully, a better mapped route towards achieving those goals. Thank you so much, my man, for joining us today. For everybody listening, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you soon.